Yo, this is Joel Davis,
And I'm Gracie Davis,
and this is Greater Than Real Estate.
where we go deep to find out who you really are beyond real estate.
Gracie, we've been talking about this for a really long time. You actually wanted to be the first one to do a podcast. So how are you feeling today?
Good. I'm excited.
Yeah. So in this podcast, we really just kind of wanted to do the first one to introduce ourselves. So I guess we can start with you, Gracie. What got you into the insurance industry?
So, it's a pretty long story. Basically, wasn't interested in insurance, had no dream of being an insurance agent growing up, didn't know they existed. Only thing I knew about insurance was how annoying it was at how much it costed, and people didn't love that. My parents, especially when I turned 16 and had to get on their car insurance. But I was working in the sports industry after college and really wanted to learn how can I actually make money as an adult. One thing about working in the sports industry is it's really fun, it's exciting, it's long work hours, but the pay is very minimal.
So when you worked in the sports industry, what did you work for, like the Rangers or the Cowboys?
Both.
Yeah. What okay, out of the two, which one was your favorite?
Oh man, it's hard to say. There was a lot of aspects of both that were really fun. Ideally, what I wanted to get into was baseball, so I worked for the Cowboys first and enjoyed that. But when I got the option to work for the Rangers, I definitely took it, and I was working in a more important role, I would say. Depends on who you talk to. I mean, some people might say. It was something more in the career path that I wanted to be in.
Yeah.
So I did enjoy that. But the thing about sports that people don't realize is unless you're an owner or a player, you're not going to be making the money that you would dream of. So if you won't do that job for $20,000 a year, someone else will. So it's very hard to get into a team like that, but then it's also not a lot of money, not a lot of pay, like I said, long hours, especially baseball. You're working 81 home games a year, which is a lot. And that's, 8 a.m. for normal business hours starting till midnight when the game's over.
So when you started out on the baseball side, what were you actually doing? Like, what division were you with the Rangers?
So with the Rangers, I was working in corporate partnerships.
Okay.
I started off as an intern, and corporate partnerships is really the department where they figure out which companies they're going to be partnering up with for sponsorships. So those were the really big contracts. Like everybody who works in that department had worked their way up for sales. So in baseball, you start off in ticket sales if you want to be in sales. And then you get moved up to, like suites, season ticket holders, stuff like that. And then like the big show is making it to corporate partnerships where you sell like $1 million contracts to, American Airlines, Coca-Cola in order to get their signage, in the ballpark or get their season tickets for their executives, stuff like that. So with that, there was just a lot of sales, obviously, but I was more on the service side, so I would really create like all of the digital content for those proposals and stuff like that, and worked behind the scenes when we actually had those contracts on making sure that they were getting all of their needs met and were just enjoying their partnership with us. So that was really cool. But really what led me to get into insurance is I realized how much more money, I should say, the salespeople were making. And on the servicing side, which is what I was doing, we were making pretty much nothing. And we were kind of just like seen as like, just helpers, pretty faces, stuff like that. And you know, what I realized is whenever I went to that department head and was like, "Hey, I want to work in the sales role. Like, I want to do what the big dogs are doing." They were like, "Oh, sweet girl, like you don't know anything about baseball. You've never even played baseball." And that pretty much crushed my dreams that I had always wanted to work in baseball. So I realized at that point in time I was going to prove them wrong. One, in a way of showing them that I could really succeed in sales, even though I had slim to no experience other than that working in that department. So that's whenever I looked into, it was during the All-Star break that I had a couple days off, and I got with Goosehead Insurance, and they brought me in for an interview, and I just loved the opportunity of getting to work under the corporate office at that time. And really, I'll explain, a little bit about the difference. But at that time, I was working for the corporate office, and I was trained under, really successful people. And at this point now, I'm in a position where I actually own my own agency. I was able to break off from the corporate office, start my own agency here in Arlington, Texas, and really just build something for myself. So that has been the biggest blessing, to get to work through all of those things. I never thought I would be in insurance. Like I said, I always dreamed of working in sports, but I couldn't be more blessed to be where I'm at now.
Well, that's awesome. So before we delve into kind of the insurance agency and where you're at now, let's bring it back just a little bit. So where are you from? Where have you lived? Where'd you go to college? Where'd you go to high school? What'd you do for fun growing up?
So I grew up in Arlington, Texas. Okay. Got back as soon as I could. I think it's the greatest city in the United States. But I do, growing up in Arlington, obviously, I was a huge Cowboys fan, Rangers fan. And that's really what gave me that love for sports and wanting to work in sports. Unfortunately, my opinion was that girls' sports were never taken as seriously as men's sports. I played sports myself. I love playing sports, being pretty much doing anything active. But I ran track. I played volleyball, played a little bit of basketball, golf. Pretty much did, was willing to try anything. But
you would have played men's football if you could, right?
Yes, exactly. That would have been a little bit more acceptable nowadays than it was when I was growing up. I don't think they would have taken me seriously. But
yeah.
But yeah, I love sports. So whenever I graduated, I decided I was going to go to Texas A&M. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to do sports. I didn't get any offers to play sports in college, but I wanted to go there, really just deal with college. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know, what different things there were to be involved in. I ended up getting involved in a sorority, which was very interesting. Not really my style, but it was so cool. It was a really great college experience.
What sorority were you in?
Phi Beta Phi. Yeah, and obviously that's where I met the love of my life, Joel.
Yeah. Whoa.
And so that was my growing up and college and everything. Did I miss anything?
No, that was really good. So you kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier on the insurance side, how you just purchased an agency back in April, right?
Yeah.
So previous to that, you worked on the corporate side. How long were you in corporate?
So I worked in the corporate office for about 5 years, and now I've owned my agency for about a year almost. It'll be a year in April. Yeah.
So what would you say has been the biggest difference from the corporate side to the agency side for you?
Well, I think the biggest aspect of it is I'm building something for myself. So when you work in the corporate office, you're doing the same thing that I'm doing as an agency owner. Obviously, as an agency owner, there's a lot more business owner aspects to it.
Mm-hmm.
But you're still selling the same policies, talking to the same people. You still have the same partners that you work with. The big difference is just going to be really the self-management side of it, which COVID obviously happened in 2020.
Yeah.
At that point in time, everyone in the corporate office was working from home.
Mm-hmm.
And then at that point, I just never went back to working in the office after that because I was maintaining, the sales goals that had to be met in order to work remotely. And that's something really cool about our company is just the flexibility that you have if you do meet, the expectations. And that was something I was able to do at that point in my career. And I learned that I could work from home. I could work from anywhere. I could work from Mexico.
Yeah.
We worked from vacation, many a times. But I knew that I was capable of doing that, of self-managing
Yeah.
and staying on task and staying, focused and motivated and all those things. And so when I realized I could do that, and I didn't necessarily need the team aspect, at that point I realized I could do this on my own. I could continue this and then continue to build a team underneath me.
Yeah.
So that was the changing point for me. And really that was in, I guess, like I said, 2020. So I probably went through the process of trying to get an agency for about 3 years. And with that, the company was in a lot of transformation at that time. So different things changed throughout the course of those 3 years, where I was almost able to get an agency and then I wasn't, and then something else changed and I had to make adjustments. But it was all a part of, the challenges that I feel like the Lord gave me in order to make sure I was really ready and that I was able to, deal with challenges like that in the business place and in the workplace and with managers and, directors and just people that you have to work through and with in the business world. So, that's really the path that led me to get the agency. Opened April 1st of 2023 and just been killing it since then. Hit the ground running, and the industry changed a lot at that point in time. So once again, got hit with a whole new set of challenges. And we can probably go into that more later, but there was
That was actually my next question.
Okay.
So we both know in this industry, 2023 was a more difficult year for most. Lots of people getting out of industry as real estate agents, as lenders. I'm going to guess maybe some insurance agents, newer insurance agents probably got out because there wasn't very much business to go around. So you made that big jump, and then the market kind of turned a little bit for the worse. So on the insurance side, what was the biggest roadblock or hurdle that you had to get over last year and kind of into this year right now to be successful?
Yeah, so really the industry, it changed a lot because of where the insurance industry was with inflation. Obviously, cost of materials and labor went up significantly because of inflation, which everybody can see that. Gas prices, home prices going up, whatever it is. So what people didn't realize is that was going to cause a huge increase to the insurance industry, because insurance is obviously going to take care of situations if something happens to your car or your house. And if the house that you had for $300,000 now takes $400,000 to rebuild, and that's going on, I mean, prices are gonna have to go up to account for things like that. The other thing was the amount of losses that happened during 2020, 2021. Not just in Texas, but all over the U.S., like the California wildfires, hurricanes in Florida, the Texas freeze, which was a whole debacle because Texas doesn't know how to deal with the cold. And so because of the amount of claims that happened and the inflation, insurance industry was at every company had paid out so much in claims
Yeah.
that their loss ratios were 130%. They didn't have enough premium to cover all the losses that they had to pay out.
That's crazy.
So obviously what's going to happen, they're going to spike up rates. So, home insurance that used to be $1,500
Yeah.
is $3,000 now. And auto policies that you used to be able to, insure you and your spouse for $130 a month, now we're looking at $250. So that's been the biggest challenge, is just obviously one, talking to the clients about that, trying to help them understand why it is this way.
Yeah.
But also just really helping people find the best possible solution for what they need, because some people just can't afford it. Some people can't afford to be paying that much.
Yeah.
And so that's been the biggest challenge, is just working through that with people. Our company has done a phenomenal job of just finding new carriers that we can write with. Since we're a brokerage, we write with over 160 A-rated insurance companies in the U.S. So with that being said, there were so many companies pulling out of industries or creating these stipulations that now if you want to have their home insurance, you have to have auto with them. If you want to have their home insurance, you have to have a 2% deductible. If you want their auto insurance, you have to meet this home insurance requirement. Like different things that weren't there before, but it's all because they're trying to restrict how much new business they're taking on.
Yeah. I know you kind of talked about this. We've talked about this a little bit back and forth. But so explain a little bit about, like, you're saying companies actually would just say, like, I am not writing a policy anymore for, Tarrant County.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's been prevalent. Where I used to have at least 25 options for every single person in every single county, it's like, there may be 5 options in a certain county. And there may be, certain stipulations that people can't meet that restrict it even more. So you have to be really good at what you're doing. You have to know how to work through that system and just figure out what is going to be the best possible solution for where this person's at, to make sure that they're covered and make sure that they're educated on just, what's going on, what can change, what may not change. But just really having an agent, that's the big thing, is having an agent that you can trust, that you can ask these questions to. And really that's what my goal is, to just provide that education and that comfort to my clients, that they understand that I know what's going on, that I'm working with them, I'm working on their behalf, not just, getting them insurance. So, yeah.
Yeah, so
pretty much everything.
That's great. So we'll just kind of throw like a little pitch out there. So what, to you, compared to like another real estate, or not real estate agent, but insurance agent, what is the difference between you and another insurance agent? What makes you better?
Yeah, so really, there's several reasons, but the ones I'll hit on: the power of choice, having those multiple carrier options.
Yeah.
I was just talking to a lady yesterday, actually, who was like, I don't want to not work with Goosehead because I don't want to have to go shop all these insurance companies on my own. I don't have time for that. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to have to finagle different things with different agents and get this lower, increase that. Why is this that way? So she was like, I would much rather have someone who's an expert on the situation, knows everything about every company that needs to be looked at, and can just do it for me and can make, a recommendation for me. So that's the benefit, is I work on your behalf to make sure that you're getting what you need, the best price, the best coverage, everything like that. And I'm doing that all for you. That's my job. I'm the expert. So if a recommendation's to be made, I can let you know, like, this is why I would recommend this option. This is why it's going to be the best thing for you at this time. Here's what I would recommend for, 6 months, a year from now. if any changes need to be made. And I think that leads me to my next point, which is just the opportunity to work with an agent for life. You know, if you want to work with State Farm 1 year and then you find a better option with Geico and you leave and go to a different agent, you know, that new company has no loyalty to you just as much as the other company didn't have loyalty necessarily before. But if I'm your agent for life and I'm continually looking to find you the best option, then you're going to have that person who's working on your behalf who, you know, has been your agent for years, but you never had to just stick with one thing because that's all they had to offer. So that's the big thing. Obviously, I think I'm pretty cool to work with as well.
I would have to agree with that.
I enjoy people. I enjoy just getting to know people, you know, and really just creating a good experience for them. No one wants to talk about insurance. It's not everybody's favorite part of their day.
You mean you don't want to talk about it?
But if I could make it a little bit better by just, you know, calming their spirit, helping them understand what's going on, and just creating a good environment for them while they have to get that set up, then that's my goal.
Well, that's good. All right, so I'm going to go hot mic question when it comes to insurance. All right. So what are the worst dogs to have for an insurance policy?
Oh, so you got your pit bulls, your Rottweilers, any sort of wolf hybrid. That's really going to be a detriment to you. As cute, as cuddly as you say they may be, they've killed people. So they do not, insurance companies do not want to insure people with these kinds of animals. And it's hard. People get frustrated by it, but every single thing that insurance companies want to exclude from coverage, it's because it's happened. So they had to pay out hundreds of thousands of dollars because of an injury for something like that. So if you have one of those animals, I love you. I'm not against you. But
just the insurance companies are against them, right?
Just be aware that that's gonna spike up your prices if it's covered, or some companies just may not cover you at all or your home at all.
So got a couple more questions for your insurance side. So when it comes to the agency, you've been on your own for a little bit over a year now. What is the goal for the Davis agency, say, 5 years down the road? What do you want the business to look like then? So
I do want to grow a team. Whenever I opened my agency, I was actually talking to a few people about getting started, training them and bringing them on. I think the big thing that I learned was just needed to get at least a year under my belt to figure out, you know, with the changes in the industry, what needed to change on my end, on my sales process, on my expertise, things like that I needed to work on. And now I'm in a position where come, you know, a couple months, I will want to bring on somebody. I'll want to bring on another salesperson, another person to do exactly what I do. I'm just going to teach them. But hopefully the 5-year plan is to have several people hired. I'd like to ultimately have about 10 employees, 10 salespeople. In the next couple years, I'll probably end up hiring at least 2 this coming year.
Yeah.
1 or 2, and then just double up from there. And really, I want to train someone not only to do what I do well, but to become a manager, to become in that leadership role, because I want to build my team a lot like the corporate office did.
Yeah.
I think it worked really well as far as that management style, and so that's going to be the 5-year plan. Is we'll have probably about 5 to 6 agents by then, and then 10-year plan. Hopefully we have about 10 agents.
So what you're saying is, if you're looking for a job this year and you want to do sales and do insurance, call you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to see if it was a good fit.
Well, good. All right. So one more question. With the change in the industry the last year and going from the corporate side to the agency side, would you do it over again or would you not do it?
Absolutely. Without a doubt, without a question. It was definitely challenging. And I've told everyone that I know who's considering it, you know, you're buying in. You're buying into a business model. You're buying into a brand, and it's a big step. But you're building something for yourself. And you know, at the time when it was hard, I would look back and just say, in 10 years, I'm going to be so happy that I did this.
I think the really cool thing about this, and we've talked about this a bunch, is, you know, this is something that, heaven forbid, we pass on, but we could pass this on to our kids, Lord willing, if we have them. But this is something that could, you know, help generational wealth to be able to start your kids out on a right step. Because it's not only, you know, you don't have to sell policies every month. You have renewals coming in from past clients. So there's months where you could possibly take off and not do anything. Granted, that's not who you are. You like working because you're a hard worker. But this is something that, you know, could change lives for, you know, families because of how much renewals it gets, and you know, being able to pass this on to your kids. Granted, they may never want to be an insurance agent, because I don't, but you know, this is something that they could sell at some point too, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a book of business that, you know, that will be in our family. So whether it's sold or whether it's continued on by, you know, our kids, that's something that we can say we built, and it's worth something. Yeah. You know, and that's what's amazing about this opportunity is there's not a lot of businesses out there where you can continue to have that renewal growth, and you can build that book of business that really works for you as much as you're bringing on new clients and maintaining, you know, your old ones. So that's what I'm really excited about, is just the opportunity that it provides us for our family. And just the continual growth that's going to come from it.
Awesome.
So what about you? Let's talk about you a little bit, Joel. First of all, let's get to know where you grew up, how you got.
You know where I grew up. Oklahoma, the greatest state in the United States. I'm sorry for all you Texans that believe Texas is better. It's Oklahoma. So shout out to all my 405, 918, Shady 580 people in Oklahoma. We're repping that.
Okay. So, yeah, born in Oklahoma, raised in Oklahoma. How did you get to A&M where I met you? So, just kind of explain your story from there.
Growing up, my dad was a band director. My parents were a very musical family. You may not think it by looking at me, but I'm definitely musical. I'm like Buddy the Elf when it comes to singing. So growing up, music was a big part of my life, and I was blessed enough to be able to play sports too at a high level, and played baseball and football. Growing up, basketball too when I was little. But really decided to go the baseball route my senior year of high school. I ended up actually having elbow surgery. I had Tommy John surgery. People don't know what it's actually called, but we'll just call it Tommy John surgery. And so that was kind of a life changing thing at that moment. I was going into my senior year. We had all these high hopes for football, and one game right before the fall started in the summer, I tore my UCL and ended up getting surgery. Got my surgery done by Dr. Andrews down in Florida, which was a really cool thing because got to meet Ryan Broyles, which was somebody that was an OU legend and was super cool. Actually, my first, you had to go down twice. My first time down was my surgery, and I actually had my surgery right before Carl Crawford. So Carl Crawford was a big LA Dodgers guy. Big shout out over there to Dante, because I'm sure he knows Carl Crawford. But so with that, had surgery, came back. It was really interesting because if anybody knows anything about Dr. Andrews, it is that is where all the big time athletes go to get their surgeries done, whether it's ACL, shoulder, elbow. Like, he is the guy. And so walking into the physical therapy room, they actually had a sign on the door that said, "Please don't take pictures of the patients," because there was that
Oh
like
my gosh.
big of name people in there. So ended up getting surgery. Reason why I chose surgery is I could have actually played football with a torn up elbow. It would have bothered me a couple of times if I had dropped my arm slot down, but throwing a football is mostly shoulder. But chose baseball because I thought I was going to be healthier in baseball, and boy, was I wrong. I was wrong with that. So ended up going to a junior college in Seminole State. Go Trojans. Played there for 2 years. First year had a dislocated kneecap on a dumb play that my coach says was dumb, but dislocated my kneecap, got injured that year. Sophomore year was actually the only healthy year that I had. And at the beginning of my sophomore year, I went on a visit to Texas A&M because I had a friend there that I played summer ball with, and they offered me on the spot, and I was like, all right, let's do it. At that time, they were ranked number one, awesome team, awesome program. And so I went to A&M, and that's obviously where I met you. My time at A&M, I think, was a little bit kind of hindered. I would definitely say myself. I hindered my time there at A&M because I was really struggling just – I would say identity issues. So I really, growing up, I put my identity in sports, and our coach always said, "Are you going to be a thermometer or are you going to be a thermostat?" And for me, everybody wants to be a thermostat. They want to set the temperature and just be steady Eddie. But for me, if I had a great game, I was up. If I had a bad game, I was down. And really kind of secluded myself my first year and was really struggling trying to figure out who I was as a person, because my identity in baseball growing up, that had never really happened to me. I was in and out of the lineup, would have some really good stretches and then have some really bad stretches. And struggled with a little bit of depression at that time because baseball was where my worth was, and just didn't really like the situation I was in. And I remember towards the end of the year, I was talking with a couple of scouts, and I was just telling them, like, just get me out of here. Like, I just want to get out of here. And we were playing TCU in the Super Regionals, and I broke my hamate bone, and that kind of shut that off. So then we go into the senior year, and kind of the same things were happening up and down. My identity was still in sports, and I met you coming back after Christmas break. I met you the first day back when I was at FCA, which was awesome, by the way. Shout out to Elliot because he hooked me up with you. But so with that, I that year kind of went by, was still struggling up and down, didn't have a really good year to my standards. A lot of people would have loved to play at a school like Texas A&M, and for that, I'm super thankful. I got my college paid for, but I wasn't really present during that time, and it's a little sad, looking back on it. It was obviously my choice. Like, it wasn't anybody else who did that to me. That was 100% me, and was lucky enough to play professional baseball. It's not the minor leagues like everybody thinks, but I played independent baseball, which we still get paid hardly anything. I had $900 after taxes every month. You can't live on that. And so shout out to my parents.
If you're living in a hotel and it's paid for.
That is true. Shout out to my parents for paying for basically everything. But so same kind of instance, in professional baseball, it was even worse. I was up and down, and
well, remember, you went into that first season injured.
Yeah.
Too,
Yeah.
You had shattered your instep at the last playoff game as well.
Yeah, yep, did that too. So that was just another thing, and I still struggled, with my identity at that time. Hadn't figured it out. Was really angry and bitter with the Lord. Just in my relationship with Him. I remember specifically one season I would read my Bible before a game, and I was literally telling the Lord before I did, I was like, if I read this, you're going to make me play good.
How did that work out for you?
Didn't work out like you would think. And, I think I played 3 years on and off. I had other injuries, broke my thumb, broke my hand, just random injuries. And I think part of that was the Lord was trying to get my attention to just kind of, show that my identity wasn't in baseball. And so going into COVID, we had kind of talked that was going to be like my last year. Well, before COVID, we didn't know it was COVID. But going into that was right before we were going to get married. And we were kind of saying like this was going to be my last shot last year. And then COVID hit. We signed, I was signed to a league in Houston. And right before the league started, there was the minor leagues basically said players could go play anywhere they wanted. And so
they shut down their season.
Yeah, they shut down their season. And then after that happened, 2 days before, they basically cut 75% of the people on the rosters and let the minor league players play. So that kind of ended my career, obviously, on like a really down note. And we were getting married. And so I got into the mortgage industry during that time too, but I really struggled with my relationship with the Lord, where my identity was super angry, was mad at my coaches, because at that point I was blaming them for everything. I wasn't taking ownership for it. But and then that's kind of how I got into the mortgage industry. You were in the insurance industry at that time, and you're like, hey, go do this or this. And I was like, okay. I mean, I had a degree, but
be a mortgage lender or a real estate agent.
Yeah, I had a degree, and degrees are great, but I had no idea what I wanted to do. When I was at A&M, it was baseball first. They say student athlete. I was an athlete student. I'm sad to say on that.
Yeah. So, okay, talk a little bit about that. How did you get into the mortgage industry from baseball, and what was the transition like for you?
Yeah, so basically, you introduced me to a loan officer that you were doing business with at the time, and we had talked, and I didn't know I really wanted to be a mortgage lender, but I knew he was very well connected in where he was. And once I was done with ball, I sent him a text message and said, hey, we had talked about this before, but like, do you know of anybody that's hiring? Because I had no idea what I wanted to do. And he was like, well, why don't you come work for me? And I was like, okay, like, why not? And, as everybody knows, in 2020, the mortgage industry was wild. Rates were stupid low. And so I kind of got thrown into the fire. But also with that, growing up in Midwest City wasn't a super affluent town. So like my friends weren't buying homes. They're not refinancing homes. And it was during COVID. So people really didn't want to meet. There was all these restrictions. So what I really did is I built my business straight off of Facebook. If any person on Facebook had a pulse and had realtor somewhere in their name, I was friend requesting them, and I was sliding into their DMs to try to set up a meeting. Yeah. Luckily, I was able to meet Dante's amazing wife, LaKenya, who Gracie introduced me to. Shout out to LaKenya. We're going to have her on next week. But, I was able to find some diamonds in the rough through that, some agents that we're going to have on this show. Yeah. But that's kind of how I got started into the industry. And, it just kind of kept me going here to where I am now.
Yeah. Okay, so talk a little bit about where you are now, what you've learned as a lender, and really just what your goals are now for this year and the upcoming years.
Well, so where I'm at now is I'm with Primis Mortgage, but it's the big league loan team, as you can see, like in our logo, but powered by Primis Mortgage. And so with that, we are licensed in 46 states. We have the ability to do a lot of different types of loans where, some bigger banks can only do like a conventional that can fit in like this box, or an FHA up to like this credit score. So we have a lot of different options to where we can get people into homes where we think outside of the box. And, I have an amazing team. I met my now boss through like a mentorship program. And that has been one of the most awesome things. Shout out to Paul and Andrea. You guys are awesome. Really, really appreciate you guys a lot. but they have helped me so much when it just comes to running a successful business and having the right processes and the teams that they have already set for us and in place when we come on. So it's been, I think every person in like a small business is a very control oriented, but they've been able to help me see that, delegating things and not doing everything yourself, how it frees you up for so much more things, your money making activities, whatever they are, and just the systems that they have. It's been a blessing to really be there.
Yeah. So what are some of the strategies and the things that you've learned and that you try to really let your clients understand in order to be successful in this market? Because we know for the past year it's been a difficult market. And rates are higher than they were, obviously, in 2020, which is normal. But what would you say, you're able to provide to your clients as far as strategy, as far as communication, and just really being, why are you the best lender for them to work with?
Yeah, so I would say we really think outside of the box. Our rates are very competitive to everybody else, where, in this past year, a lot of people were rate heavy on like, well, got to have the lowest rate or whatever. But, not always having the lowest rate is the best option. You're always going to find somebody that's going to do it cheaper in insurance. You're always going to find somebody that'll do it cheaper in lending. You're always going to find somebody that'll do it cheaper on the real estate side. But is the value that they're going to bring actually going to get you to the closing table and get you what you need and actually care about you? I'm going to say no. Yeah. Personally. So on like the structuring side, we just think outside of the box. We have different strategies like, seller paid mortgage payments, being able to bridge up to a 10% FHA appraisal gap with no money out of pocket to the buyers, debt restructuring to help somebody get their total debt monthly payment down. We just, we really figure out what the biggest pain point is for the client, and we attack that and try to find as many ways possible to get them the solution that they need to be successful. And personally, I think so many people missed out on buying a home this last year with rates looking to go down and where they're projected. So many more people are going to be back into the market. And, I would say Texas as a, well, I'd say DFW as a whole, we're in kind of like I would call it like a bubble, like a security bubble, because we have so many people moving here. We have so many homes. I mean, if you look at how big just the DFW is compared to states, like I think they saw a stat, it was like bigger than 42 states, just the DFW with how many people are here. So the amount of things that we have in the economy, it's not just built off of one thing. If you look at Oklahoma is built off of just basically oil and gas. So Texas has so many different types of economies parts of the economy to help it stay stable.
Yeah. Absolutely. So with that, I know you do have relationships with realtors, and that's a really big part of your business, is working with these realtors to find the best solutions for your clients. So explain a little bit about that and your relationships with your realtor partners.
So I really enjoy getting to able to just talk to realtors and just talk. I can really talk to anybody. I can talk to a wall. It's just something that I really enjoy. And so being able to talk to just realtors and, being able to earn their business, for me, I always tell every realtor, when I die, this money's not coming with me. So for me, it's all about the relationships. I want to work with like-minded and like-hearted realtors and any other business-to-business relationship with our wealth partners on CPAs, financial advisors, will and trust attorneys. I want to work with, like-minded and like-hearted people that are fun to work with, people that will go out and, have dinner with or show up to their kids' baseballs or football games. Like that's what I really enjoy. I'm a very outgoing person. So like I get super energized by just having like a good conversation with a realtor. And that's honestly what I love about this job. I can't stand just sitting there not talking, as you know.
Yeah, sitting behind a desk.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not, you do sit behind a desk, but that's not the main part of what you do. So.
Yeah, because I'm on my phone like 75% of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same. Do you ever get tired of it?
No. No, I don't. I know you do. I know it kind of drains you a
I
little
can get
bit.
exhausted, but not you.
No,
Yeah.
I just keep going.
Yeah. So with your business, what is your plan, or what are your future goals that you're really going to be working towards this year, next 5 years, next 10 years? We kind of talked about that for
Yeah.
our Davis agency, but what else when it comes to mortgages
Well, I
do you
think
see long term?
I think on the mortgage side, I think I would love to, have a team at some point, really be able to produce a bunch to where I can bring people under me, have more, loan offer assistance, or get a business development rep to, handle some relationships when it comes to different markets, say Oklahoma, since I can't be there 24/7. But I think is to be able to run a team at some point with a couple of loan officers. I think that would be a really fun thing. Kind of brings back the team aspect when it comes to sports, which, I absolutely loved. So I think, 2, 5, 10 years, it would to be hire a team and be able to run, I guess you could say, a branch by myself.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So going back to, what you talked about, growing up, playing sports, now working in the mortgage industry, how would you say your identity has changed over time, and what do you really feel like your identity is in now?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. When it comes to my identity now, I would say my identity is in Christ, 100%. That has been the most stable factor, other than you, that I've had, through my whole life, whether I chose to depend on it or not. You were a testimonial part. I don't even know if that's a word, but it is a word. You were super big when I was struggling in our first couple years of marriage, to just encourage me to be in the Word, and encouraging us to go to church and getting us involved in our community group, which is absolutely amazing. Shout out to the Duke group and everybody in it.
Devoted.
Yeah. We really, it's changed so much. I've sought out mentorships when it comes within our church, and being able to just learn more about where my identity comes from, and how baseball and a mortgage lender is what I do, not who I am. And it's been a really big you know this, it's been a really big haul and a really big change from the last 2 years, from everything that I struggled with to not even wanting to look or talk about baseball whatsoever, to going to games, checking in on guys that I used to play with. So it's been really good, for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's been amazing just to be a part of your journey, and just to be married to you. It's honestly just a huge blessing to learn from you, and to get to see how you've grown, and how ultimately you're leading us. You'll lead our family. So I'm very grateful for that. And yeah, I think just to close it out today, anything else that you want to add?
No, I was really just going to ask you,
listeners?
what are you excited for when it comes to interviewing these agents? What gets you excited about that?
Yeah, I'm excited to get to know people beyond just what they do. Obviously, when you work with someone, you get to work with them on the business side, but you don't get an hour a lot of times just to talk to them about what they really care about. What's important to them, their family, their background. So I'm excited to get to know people on a deeper level, and just get to really help them provide this additional content that they're going to be able to utilize for their social media, for their clients, and just be able to provide that extra advice and that extra content.
Yeah.
What about you?
I don't know if I could have said it any better. You're the English person in the house, but yeah, I'm just super excited to be able to help tell
their story.
tell their stories, and really let people. I always say, people don't buy a house because, you know, they work for Remax or KW or this. They buy the house because of that person. And I just really just want to help them tell their stories and get more of who they are out there because, you know, like we talked about, real estate is what we do. It's not who we are. So that's really what I'm excited about.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Well, I guess that wraps it up. We want to give a big shout out to Tap In Studio, where we're doing this podcast and where we will be doing this podcast. So if you have any questions about starting a podcast, I can get you Dante's information. He's awesome. And then I guess we could give like a little precursor for next week. We're having an amazing agent named LaKenya Rose with the Rose Group. She's one of my most favorite agents that I enjoy so much. Her spirit, you know, just being able to talk to her on the phone, like she gets me more amped up than anybody because out of all the conversations I've had with LaKenya, I think she's had one bad day. And like that bad day was her grandma passing. So we can't even count that because anytime she is just so bubbly, so awesome, so encouraging. And I'm just really excited to get her out there. She also has a podcast too. She films here. I think it's called Queendom Talks. And so I'm sure she'll give a plug for that, but super excited to get LaKenya on here.